हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल मैकेनिकल मेजर। मशीन डिज़ाइन का टॉपिक चल रहा है फ्रेंड्स हमारा। और हम लास्ट वीडियो में हमने स्पर गियर्स के बारे में स्टडी किया था। ठीक है, गियर्स टॉपिक पे स्पर गियर टॉपिक था हमारा। इसके पहले मशीन डिज़ाइनिंग के ऑलरेडी 4 लेक्चर्स आपके आ चुके हैं। ठीक है, वो आप लोग आई बटन में उसका लिंक देख सकते हैं, डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में भी उसका लिंक मैं प्रोवाइड कर दूंगा आप लोगों को। आज जो हमारा टॉपिक स्टार्ट हो रहा है फ्रेंड्स, आप लोग देख सकते हैं, वो है हमारा थ्रेडेड जॉइंट्स का। ठीक है, रिवेटेड जॉइंट के बारे में ऑलरेडी हमने स्टडी कर लिया है। मशीन डिजाइनिंग में देखें तो मोस्ट प्रोबेबली हमको 3 तरीके के जॉइंट के बारे में स्टडी करनी पड़ती है। द फर्स्ट वन वाज योर रिवेटेड जॉइंट, आज हम जो स्टडी कर रहे हैं थ्रेडेड। एंड नेक्स्ट जो आएगा आप लोगों का आएगा वो है वेल्डेड जॉइंट्स। ओके, तो आज जो वीडियो है वो थ्रेडेड जॉइंट पे है। ये बेसिकली रिलेट करता है आप लोगों का जो पावर स्क्रू का जो टॉपिक है। ठीक है, पावर स्क्रू दैट मीन जो स्क्रू जैक आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा इंजीनियरिंग मैकेनिक्स में जो होता है। ठीक है, बोल्टेड एंड नट्स एंड बोल्ट का कॉन्सेप्ट पे। ठीक है, तो आज का वीडियो स्टार्ट करते हैं। टॉपिक देख सकते हैं आप लोग, थ्रेडेड जॉइंट्स। ठीक है, जॉइंट्स के बारे में ऑलरेडी मैंने आप लोगों को बताया था कि किस तरीके के जॉइंट्स हमारे होते हैं मशीन डिजाइनिंग में, और जॉइंट्स का किस पर्टिकुलर हम उसको यूटिलाइजेशन क्या होना चाहिए, कि किस तरीके का जॉइंट हम कहाँ यूज करते हैं। ओके, सो थ्रेडेड जॉइंट्स को अगर हम देखें तो बाय डेफिनेशन इफ यू कैन सी द थ्रेडेड जॉइंट्स are separable joints of two or more machine parts that are held together by means of a threaded fastening such as nut and a bolt। ठीक है, तो इट इज अ शॉर्ट ऑफ, पहला अगर हम वर्ड देखें तो सेपरेबल जॉइंट। ठीक है, दैट मीन्स डिटैचेबल जॉइंट, ये जो आप लोग देख सकते हैं ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज डिटैचेबल जॉइंट। दैट मीन्स इफ वी नीड टू डिसएंगेज टू असेंबली और टू एलिमेंट्स, यू कैन से, which are being joined by the nut and bolt arrangement, so that can be easily detachable by opening the nut, okay, and opening the bolt and disconnecting the nut and the bolt. Okay, so these are also called as your detachable joints. Now one word you can see here, threaded, okay, comes from the word thread. Okay, what are threads? Threads, you can see, thread is a basic element of this joint. Thread is formed by cutting a helical groove on surface of cylindrical rods or cylindrical hole. ठीक है, let us understand what are threads. आप लोगों ने कोई cylindrical assembly देखी होगी। ओके, cylinders का when there is a helical groove, यहाँ पे आप लोग वर्ड देख सकते हैं, helical groove हमने यूज किया है। what are helical grooves? ठीक है, grooves cutting means making a short of your you can say, first of all let us understand what are helix. Helix is a curve generated outside, you can say, the periphery or the circumference of a cylinder. Okay, so when a helical curve is, or helical groove is cut either outside the cylinder or inside part of the hollow cylinder, okay, so that is considered under your threads. Okay, now what is the function? There are no loosening of parts, therefore the thread joints are reliable joint. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन में आप लोगों को कभी पूछ भी सकता है, विच कैटेगरी ऑफ जॉइंट और विच काइंड ऑफ जॉइंट इज योर रिलायबल जॉइंट? थ्रेडेड जॉइंट्स आर योर रिलायबल जॉइंट्स। ओके, बिकॉज वहां पे वी कैन क्लियरली बाय फिजिकल अपीयरेंस ओनली, और बाय वी कैन जस्ट मूविंग ऑन वी कैन से इफ देयर इज एनी sort of disturbance or if the nuts are not properly been tightened, in that case you can say the joint is not efficient. But if the bolt threads are okay, the internal threads of the you can say the bolt is okay, the external thread of the nut is okay, then in that case the assembly will be perfect and it will be more efficient. Hence they are also called as your reliable joint. Okay, they can be placed in any position. This is the one of the most important, you can say, the advantage of threaded joint, that can be placed in any position, and it depends upon the availability of the place for your nut and bolt assembly. Okay, now you can see what are the component of this threaded joint. So you can say, you can see this picture. The first is the nut portion. You can see this is your nut. Okay, and sorry, this is your bolt, and this particular portion you can say this is your nut portion. Okay, the bolt, you can say this is the head of the bolt and this is the shank of the bolt. Okay, and this particular part is the nut. So for the assembly there will be external threading in the bolt. Okay, and there will be internal threads in the nut. ओके, बिकॉज अगर दोनों में हम एक्सटर्नल थ्रेडिंग ही रख दें या दोनों में इंटरनल रख दें तो वो जॉइंट नहीं होगा। सो इफ द थ्रेड्स आर कट इन लेफ्ट, यू कैन से लेफ्ट position or the left direction of, in case of your bolt, then there will be internal threads cutting right in the direction of the nut. That means that the both the threads cutting in the assembly of the two elements will be in opposite direction. Okay, so in that case only there will be proper jointing of the elements. Okay, now next comes the bolt of uniform strength. Why we use this terms of uniform strength? Because if you can say the nut is of appropriate strength, then the bolt has to be of uniform strength, otherwise the assembly will be not efficient. So the bolt of uniform strength states that the bolts are subjected to shock and impact loading. Okay, नाउ इफ यू हैव एग्जांपल, अगर हम बोल्ट एंड नट असेंबली का एग्जांपल देखें तो वो आ जाता है आप लोगों के जो लोकोमोटिव्स होते हैं, से मोस्ट ऑफ द पार्ट्स आर यू कैन से एंगेज बाय योर नट एंड बोल्ट असेंबली, सो दे आर सब्जेक्टेड टू शॉक एंड इम्पैक्ट लोडिंग। ओके, लोडिंग के केस में हमने देखा था व्हाट आर इम्पैक्ट लोडिंग, शॉक लोडिंग, दैट मीन्स यू कैन से देयर विल बी सम सॉर्ट ऑफ जर्क एक्शन। Okay. Now, second is the resilience is defined as the ability of the material to absorb energy when deformed elastically and to release this energy when unloaded. So, already we have studied this, you can say the term resilience in terms of जब हमने stress strain curve के बारे में study की थी and the properties evolving out of that. So, resilience is a property. Okay. And what is this resilience? It is the ability of a material. Which material? The element or the material which is being used in the assembly to absorb energy when deformed elastically and to release this energy when unloaded. Okay, so this is a sort of, you can say, spring action. On impact of loading there will be absorption of energy, and on releasing there will be release in the energy. Okay, so resilience is one of the most important property when the material is subject to impact or shock loading. Next is the resilience of a bolt is important design consideration to prevent breakage of threads. Okay, why it is important? Because the thread has to bear all this kind of shock and impact load. So if the threads can't bear this kind of load, the thread will wear out. Okay, so on this wearing there will be now loose connection between the two elements, nut and the bolt, and when there will be loose connection the joint will be not proper, or you can say the joint will be of not good strength or not efficient. Okay, so what we need is we need a thread which has good resilience. So resilience is one of the most important property of a thread. This you need to keep in your mind. Next is the terminology of a screw thread. So from here you can see this is, you can say, a shot of your thread assembly. Okay, how we are generating the threads, what are the various, you can say, terminology used for the threads. So you can see this is a diagram. Suppose let us say this was the shaft where you can say this is one of your cylindrical element. So from this cylindrical element you can see, if suppose this is the dia, so this will be called as DC, you can say the core diameter. Okay, from the core diameter itself the internal dia of the thread, or you can say the main dia, is called as the core diameter. Okay, but from where these threads are generated, these threads are generated depend upon this dia, you can say the major diameter. So on cutting this major diameter, so the rolling action will occur. Okay, turning will be there inside your machine tool, and with this turning action we will cut the threads with the help of a cutting tool. Okay, so when these threads are being cut, it is cutted from your major diameter. Here we are representing this major diameter as your D. Okay, and the internal portion up to which the thread depth is there, you can call this diameter, or you can say the internal diameter is called as your core diameter. Okay, next is, you can see this portion. What is this portion? This dashed line here, and from in the bottom, this is, you can say, DP, you can say the pitch circle diameter. Okay, so for the diameter point of view, you will be getting, in case of your thread, if you are studying, you will get three kinds of diameter. The diameter from which the threads are being cutted, that is known as your major diameter. The diameter up to which, or the depth of the cut, will be called as your core diameter, and the pitch circle diameter, or the engagement of the bolts, will be called as your DP, the pitch circle diameter. Okay, now you can see here this is the depth of the cut, and this is the you can say the top portion. So this top portion is called as the crest, and this the bottom up to which the depth has been cut, this is called as the root. Okay, so this is the root, this portion is a crest, and the angle between the threads cut, okay, that is called as your thread angle. Okay, so generally it has been asked what is the basic value of the thread angle for so and so kind of your you can say the thread. So you have to give the answer for that. Okay. And one of the most important term that you can see here, this is the pitch. What is this pitch? This is the distance between the two consecutive thread portion. Okay. What is this consecutive portion? You can say this is, let us say this is one of your thread and this is another thread. So distance between these two, either you can say the crest or you can say the root of the thread. Okay, so you can calculate either from the, if the crest value is given, top to crest is given, or the two consecutive root distance is given, then that is called as your pitch. Okay. Now from the definition, measure dia, the dia of imaginary cylinder that bounds the crest of a external thread. Okay, so you can see here that this crest portion, or you can say the top portion of the thread, this basically constitutes your major diameter, or you can say the original distance of, you can say the major diameter. Okay, this is the largest dia of the screw thread, also called as nominal diameter. Okay, so many of the questions you will be getting the value of either core diameter or the pitch circle diameter or the nominal diameter. Okay, so you have to consider the value as given on the question. So the major diameter is also called as a nominal diameter. Next is the minor diameter or the DC. This is the diameter of imaginary that bound roots of external thread. Okay, what is this root? Root we have seen here. This is the root. So this diameter is your, you can say the minor diameter. Smallest diameter also called as core or root diameter. Already I have shown you this is a core dia. Okay, the first major dia was nominal, minor dia was core dia. Third is your pitch dia. What is pitch dia? The dia of the imaginary cylinder that surface of which would pass through the threads at such point as to make the width of the thread equal to the width of the spaces cut by the surface in the cylinder. Okay, so in this case, what is this pitch circle diameter? This is an imaginary cylinder. Okay, draw a dia of an imaginary cylinder. You can say the surface of which would pass through the threads at such point as to make the width of the thread, okay, equal to the width of the spaces cut by surface of the cylinder. That means you can say this will be the mean of this crest and the root. Okay, the mid portion of this crest and the root. So this is called as a pitch circle diameter. Okay, also called as effective diameter. So one was your nominal, second was your core, third was your effective diameter. Major diameter, minor diameter, pitch diameter. Okay. Now what is the pitch? Already we have seen the distance between the two similar point on the adjacent thread measured parallel to the axis of the thread. Okay. Now another term comes, what is the lead? What is the lead? Lead is the distance that the nut moves parallel to the axis of the screw when the nut is given one turn. So you can say, suppose let us say this is our one of our thread. Okay, so on one rotation of this, you can say the 360 rotation of the thread, how much distance this particular point in a thread moves forward or moves backward. So for one turning, how much distance this particular point of a thread travels from its initial position, up from initial position to the final position. This is called as your lead. Okay, this is represented by L, and generally many of the question that is given you as your capital L also. Okay, now third is your thread angle. Angle included between the side of the thread measured in an axial plane. Already we have seen in the diagram. And what is the value? 60° for isometric threads. This value you have to keep in mind for examination point of view. What is the thread angle for your isometric threads? So 60° for your isometric thread. Okay, this value 60° you have to keep in mind. Next is the tensile stress area. ओके, फॉर ईच एंड एवरी पॉइंट हमने जितने भी स्टडी किए अभी तक, जो भी टॉपिक को मतलब कंसिडर किया है, हर एक टॉपिक में हमने देखा है कि हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू रीड एंड व्हाई वी आर गोइंग टू रीड. सो हाउ इंक्लूड द वेरियस एलिमेंट्स ऑफ द असेंबली. So we have already read about the thread, we have read about the nut, we have read about the terminology of the threads. Okay, what is the lead, what is the pitch, what is the thread angle, okay, what is the pitch diameter, core diameter, nominal diameter. So on the basis of that, when a nut and bolt assembly are being considered, so there will be a stress generated on application of the force. Okay, so on, you can say if there is a nut and we are applying the bolt, okay, so to make the assembly. So in order to make the assembly, we need to apply the force. Okay, there may be the turning moment of the bolt, or you can say the turning that was being applied in the, you can say the nut. So on the basis of that, some stress will be generated. What will be the stress? The stress, you can say, a tensile stress. So the tensile stress, what we will be getting, the cross-sectional area of unthreaded rod is called the tensile stress area. The cross-sectional area of unthreaded rod is called tensile stress area. Now you can say what is the unthreaded area, you can see. So if this is our one of our assembly, this is the bolt head, this is the shank, and this is the nut. So if at present case you can see the nut is here, there may be some assembly where we need to we need to apply the joint. So on the basis of that, if this portion is only the threaded portion, okay, so this will only be the tensile stress area, okay, where the tensile stress will occur. So this tensile stress area will be equals to dp plus dc divided by 2. That will be the average of the pitch circle diameter to the core diameter, okay, or you can say the mean of pitch circle diameter to the core diameter. Clear hai? Now comes, whenever you will go to any kind of, you can say, the workshop or the assembly shop, okay, or in the automobile shop, generally you will see whenever you will select a nut or a bolt, a number has been printed here, okay, or you can say the nomenclature from where you can identify the what category or what actual quantity, okay, of your you can say the nut or bolt you need to require for an assembly. So the it is basically defined in a you can say the topic called as a screw thread series. What is this screw thread series? This is a definition, you can say the nomenclature for selection of any threaded element, okay, either nut or the bolt. So from this screw thread series, if you see the core series, okay, and second is your fine series. Now what are core series, what are fine? This is just an English word. Coarse means, fine means very smooth, or you can say very fine particles, okay, very small, you can say this you can say disturbance. But coarse means it will be rough surface. So the core series and fine series can be defined easily as, if a core series screw thread element is there, then let us say if it's denoted by M, then 12. What is this M? M denotes the core series, okay. And what is this 12 denote? 12 denotes its nominal diameter. What is nominal diameter? Already we have seen nominal diameter is your major diameter, okay. Now for fine series, if you go to the fine series, what is the nomenclature? Clearly you can understand if it is written here that M12 multiplied by 1.25. So this shows your fine series. Okay, M denotes the series, 12 denotes the nominal diameter, already we have seen, multiplied by 1.25, that will show your pitch. Okay, pitch already we have seen, distance between the two consecutive point of a threaded assembly. So this is called as your pitch. Okay, so the fine series is represented in this perspective, and the core series is represented in this format. Okay, so you can easily define, if it is given in the sense of M12, it is core series, M12 multiplied by 1.5, it will given by a fine series. Okay, so up to now what we have seen, we have read about the various elements of the assembly. Okay, we have studied about the nut, we have studied about the threads. Now what we are going to is, we are going to now analyze, okay, what actually we have to face while assembling. What are the various stresses, what are the various forces, what may be the turning moment that can be used to define our assembly, that is used for the design of our threaded joints. Okay, so we can start from here, the bolted joint. Okay, we can say bolted joint or threaded joint, what we are bolted joint analysis. So what here, if you can see, this is, suppose this is your bolt, okay, and there will be a nut. So when a bolt and nut assembly is there, so bolt, whenever the assembly will be provided, the nut will be in compression and bolt will in tension. Okay, so you can see from this figure, if you can see here, suppose this is, you can say, the thread, this P is being applied. Okay, so what is happening, this nut goes down and there will be the you can say the jointing of the assembly. Okay, this is see one of the portion which is we need to join from this lower portion. So whenever we are inserting this bolt inside this material, okay, you can say this greenish part, you can see here, this greenish part is, suppose we can say the element we need to join, this is the bolt. So whenever we are applying the bolt here, let us say this is the height h up to which the bolt has been inserted, and a force P is applied over here so that the assembly can be inserted. So in this case, there will be tension in the bolt. Okay. So whenever a bolted assembly is being used, so there will be tension in the bolt. So this tension in the bolt will create, or you can say you can generate a stress called as the tensile stress. So this sigma T will be equals to P. You can say, let us say this P load is being applied over here, or you can say P force is applied divided by the cross sectional area. What will be the cross sectional area? Here you can see the assembly. You can see we have read about nominal, we have read about pitch circle, we have read about the core diameter. So in case of bolt, if the assembly is being joined, so there will be stress in the core portion. You can see the core diameter of the bolt. So in that case, the cross sectional area will be pi by 4 dc square. Okay, what is this dc square? This is the core diameter. So this will give the tensile stress in the bolt. Now again, if you can see, the height of a nut edge can be determined by equating the strength of the bolt in tension with the strength in the series. Okay, why we need to identify? We need to identify in order to calculate the energy, or how much energy or how much input we need to give. Okay, so we can calculate it first by calculating, already we have calculated the tensile stress in the area, and equating the strength of the bolt in tension with the strength in the shear. Okay, now you can see the shear will come when there will be any tangential force applied in the element. So what may be the tangential force? But from the, you can say, the design point of view, we have got some theories. Okay, theories of failure. So from that theory, if you see, the sigma t is equals to syt by fs. What is this fs? This is nothing but the factor of safety. Okay, so this tensile stress can be calculated, or you can say can be, the value can be calculated on the basis of, if we have got the value of our shear, you can say yield strength and the factor of safety. Okay, either of the three can be calculated if the two values are given. So the equation number 1, you can see here, this gives the value of tensile stress. This tensile stress is equals to syt by fs. This is the strength in the yield, tensile strength in the yield upon the factor of safety. And again, the strength of the bolt in tension is given by, now you can calculate here, this P will be equal to pi by 4 dc square multiplied by syt upon fs. Okay, what happens? This P, we have cross multiplied this to here, and sigma T we have calculated from this equation. So we will be getting P is equals to pi by 4 dc square syt by fs. Okay, so what we have gained? We have gained what is the actual force or load being applied in case of your tensile stresses. Now, the thread of the bolt is contact with the nut are shear at core diameter. The shear area is equals to pi dc into h. H is the height of the nut. Okay, now we need to understand, already we have read in case of your riveted joint, the shear will occur in this particular pocket only. Okay, you can see this H portion and this DC. This will be the only the shear area, not the whole part of the shank, or you can note the whole part of the threaded portion. Why? Because the shear will occur due to the tangential forces on the member, and the tangential forces will be applied only when this particular, you can say, the bolt is inserted inside the nut. Okay, so the shear area in this case will be equals to pi multiplied by dc into h, the circumference multiplied by the height. Okay, height up to which, the height of, you can say, the nut. Okay, so this shear area, the shear force will be given by pi dc h SSY upon Fs. This is the shear strength with respect to the factor of safety divided by factor of safety, that will give the value of the shear stress. Okay, so this will be equal to pi dc into h syt upon 2fs. And why this value comes from your syt by 2fs? Because we, in the case of your theories of failure, have studied that shear stress, okay, will be equals to the half of the tensile. So in that case, we can put the value of syt okay, or SSY equals to SYT divided by 2. Okay, shear stress equals to the half of the tensile strength. So this half of the tensile strength is given by this equation B. Now equating this equation number A and equation number B. Why we need to calculate? We need to calculate just in order to calculate the value of H. Okay, up to what length, or you can say up the energy, to calculate the energy. So from this equation we have got H is equals to 0.5 times of the DC. What is this H? This is the height of the nut. Okay, so this height of the nut is equals to 0.5 times of the core diameter, assuming DC equals to zero point 0.8 times of D. What is DC and what is this D? So generally in the design procedure, what we adopt is we cater or we take the core diameter equals to zero point 0.8 times of the major diameter or the nominal diameter. So on putting this value of your core diameter is equals to 0.8 times of your major diameter, you will be getting this H is equals to 0.4 times of D. Okay, so if your core diameter is given, you can calculate the height of the nut, and if the major diameter is given, nominal diameter is given, you can also calculate the height of the nut. Either of the two equations can be used to calculate the height of the nut. Okay, now the standard core thread for the nut to be in equal strong in failure by shear and by failure by tension if the height of nut is approximately 0.4 times of normal diameter of the bolt, nominal diameter of the bolt. Already we have seen here. Again, this H is equals to 0.8 times of D. The height of standard hexagonal nut is 0.8 D. Now, if the category of the nut is not given to you or unless not specified in the problems, then you can take this value as the height of the nut. Otherwise, if a hexagonal nut is given, then you can clearly take the value of height of the nut as 0.8 times of D. Okay, the nominal diameter, this small d is the nominal diameter here, DC is the core diameter. Clear hai? Now next comes the analysis for your bolted joint. Already we have seen the tensile stress concept, we have seen the shear stress concept, we have calculated the height of the nut. So on the basis of that, if the assembly is there, how we will be analyzing, how we'll go through the analysis of the problem. We have certain concept on the basis of that, that depends on the loading condition. Okay, so the first loading condition is when the eccentric loaded bolted joint in shear, when the load is being applied eccentrically. So if this is one of the assembly, this is another assembly, and this 1 2 3 4 you can see here, these are your nut and bolt arrangement, and the load is applied over here. So let us say this load is eccentrically placed at a distance small e from the center of gravity of the, you can say this nut and bolt arrangement. Okay, let us consider this G. Okay, this G, the center G, is the center of gravity of the bolting arrangement or the assembly. So for this 1 2 3 4, this is the center. From this center, the load is eccentrically placed at a distance E, let us say y distance. Okay, so let A1, A2 be the cross section of the bolt, X and Y represent position of the CG. So the first thing what we need is, we have assumed here, but we need the exact location of the center of gravity. So what will we do? We will be doing applying the same concept that will be used in case of your locating the moment of, you can say the center of gravity for any figure. So this is given by this X bar. Let us say this is, you can say the distance Y. From this end you can say the distance is X. So for this X and Y assembly, you will be getting, it is given by a1 x1 x2 y2 up to all the members divided by a1 plus a2, a1 y1 plus a2 y2 up to this all assembly. So y bar will be equal to a1 x1 a1 y1 upon a bar. So from here, this using the equations of x bar and y bar, you can locate the position of G. On locating the position of G, the exact value of y can be figured out. Okay. Now what we have got the location of center of gravity, we have got the exact distance of this eccentric loading. Okay, now what we are going to do is, we got two category of forces in this condition. For the eccentric loading of a bolted joint, you can see there will be two types of load in the bolts. Okay, why there will be two kind of load we will see in the future. Let us say the first is the primary load, second is the secondary shear force. So the primary load is totally depends on the number of bolts and nut what we have used in the assembly. Okay, so this primary force, let us say P1 dash, P2 dash, P3, P4 is equals to P divided by number of bolts. So this will give the primary forces. Okay, what are these primary forces? These are primary forces that is being applied by, or you can say that is being contributed by each nut and bolt arrangement. So the overall value will be divided by the number of bolts. Okay, this is just a basic for your primary, but we need to understand what are the secondary forces. So for the secondary forces, you have to go through the values. This P1 dash P3 dash is equals to C times of R1, C times of R2, C R3, C R4. Now what is this C? We will understand. This P1 dash will be equal to PE R1 upon R1 square, R2 square, R3, R4. Okay, and this P3 P dash will be equal to your PER2 PR1 R2 square R3 square R4 square. Now what this is R1 R2 R3 and R4. Okay, so let us say the distance from the center of gravity up to the center of this bolt 1 is R1. In case of this bolt 2, it will be R2. For bolt 3, it will be R3, and for bolt 4, it is R4. Okay, so on calculation of this value, okay, what we are calculating? We are calculating the secondary forces. So for secondary forces, you will be getting P1 double dash. Let us say P1 dash was the primary force, secondary force is P1 double dash. So it is P1 double dash will be equal to PER1 upon R1 square plus R2 square plus R3 square plus R4 square. What we have written, see, this is just, you can say, a value of constant. Okay, or you can say the value of the force. So this is nothing but PE divided by R1 square plus R2 square plus R3 square plus R4 square. Okay, and this again multiplied by R1 gives the value of the secondary forces. So for eccentrically loaded position, or you can say eccentrically loaded bolted joints in the shear, you will be getting the value as that the secondary force and the primary force. Okay, the primary force will be the total force acting divided by the number of bolt. The secondary force will be equal to this P1 dash P2 dash divided by the R1, R2, R3 and R4 square. That is the square of the radial distance from the center of gravity. Okay, so this contributes your first analysis, the eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear. Now, in case of the second case, what we will be getting is the eccentrically loaded bolted joint perpendicular to the axis of the bolt. So in that case, what we will be getting, so let us say this is one of the assembly, and this portion you can see, this is, you can say, the front view of your assembly. This 1, 2, 3 and 4, these are your, you can say, the bolted joints, or you can say the bolts, and this P is applied over here. Now from the side view you can clearly see here, let us say this P is such a distance E from the fixed end, okay, or eccentric at a distance E from the P. Let us say this distance from this fixed end, you can say this fixed end to the top of this bolt 1, this distance is your, let us say, L1, and distance from this 2 from the bottom, or you can say from the joint from the fixed end, let us say this distance is your L2. Clearly present here, this is L1, this is your L2. The P is at a distance E from the fixed end. This is the side view. Okay, so on the basis of that, if we can say, if a load P is applied here, on the basis of that P, the load, or you can say the assembly, will deform, and it will deform in, like, let us say in this particular criteria, you can say it will deform in this particular condition. So what will be happening, this position L, this will deform, let us say, in a position up to the distance delta 1, and this 2 will deform at a up to, you can say, the deformation is, let us say, delta 2. Okay, this L1 L2 is the distance from the fixed end at a location C. So on the basis of that, we will put the analysis. So let us say force P is perpendicular to the axis of the bolt. Okay, now this is the axis. Okay, from this figure you can say for this bolt 1, towards facing yourself is the axis of the bolt, and this P is applied, or you can see from here, this is the axis of the bolt. Okay, this is the line, this is the axis of the bolt, and P is perpendicular to this axis. So this force P is perpendicular to the axis of the bolt, upper bolt 1 and lower bolt 2. Okay, now the structure and bracket are rigid. This is the assumption, that is that they will not deform. The structure will not deform. The, the assembly will get deformed for the analysis, but the particular members will not deform. Okay, there will be not any kind of change in the dimensions of the object. And the bolts are fitted in rimmed and ground holes. Okay, that they are properly fixed. There will be not any sort of deformation in the, you can say, the jointing assembly. Now, the force P results in direct shear on all bolts. What we are getting is the force P results in direct shear on all bolt. Okay, already we have seen in case of here that eccentric loading condition also. So this P1 dash is equals to P2 dash being identical is equal to P upon the number of bolts. Same, the primary force, or you can say, will be equals to the force divided by the number of bolts. Okay, and second is the moment PE. What is this moment PE? That is nothing but the force when taken up to the fixed end. This is equals to P multiplied by the eccentric distance. So this moment tends to tilt the bracket about C. What is the bracket about C? So already we have seen here. So if this P is multiplied over here, that is the P will create a moment, and due to this moment there will be deformation delta 1 and delta 2, like as we have seen here. Okay, so this PE will tends to lift the bracket about C. Okay, so delta 1 will be proportional to L1, delta 2 will be proportional to L2. Okay, so already we have seen in the lower portion you will be getting less deformation, but as we go on increasing, this delta will try to increase. So this tends to depend upon the length up to which the bolt has been fixed in the assembly. Now, if P1 dash P2 dash are the resisting forces induced in the bolt, P1 dash will be proportional to L1, P2 dash will be proportional to L2. Okay, deformation equation you have read about the strength of material. From there you can clearly define. Okay, so this P double dash equals to C times of L1, P2 double dash equals to C times of L2. C is a constant. What is this constant? We will be calculating here. So the taking moment about edge C. Okay, consider this figure in your mind and you can say we are taking this moment about this point C. So this point C, this P multiplied by E is equals to 2 times of P double dash into L1 plus 2 times of P2 double dash divided by L2. So let us say a shear force is acting in this direction. Okay, so for this direction, for this one and for this one, there will be 2 times of P1 multiplied by distance L1, and for this P2 and this 2, this will be 2 times of P2 double dash divided by the distance L2. Okay, so we have written the moment equation here. So from condition A and B, what we are getting is P1 double dash equals to C times of L1, P2 double dash equals to C times of L2. So this P and E, okay, the moment about the edge is equals to, putting this value of P1 double dash, P2 double dash here, you will be getting this equation, and on solving you will get the value of C here. Okay, let us say C is a constant what you need to multiply in order to get the shear forces. So C is equals to PE upon 2 times of L1 square plus L2 square. Okay, so the secondary shear force P1 double dash in case of bolt 1 1, you will be getting PE L1 upon 2 L1 square plus L2 square. For P2 double dash you will be getting PE L2 upon 2 times of L1 square plus L2 square. Okay, so this gives the value of your secondary shear forces when the load is applied perpendicular to the axis of the bolt. Okay, clear hai? Bolt which is located farthest will experience more or maximum forces. Okay, we have calculated the primary shear force, we have calculated secondary shear force, but there was no any term related to what will be the maximum value of the shear force. So from the concept or if from the figure you can see the bolt which is located farthest will experience more or maximum forces. How we can calculate that it will experience more shear forces? So on calculating this value, what you are getting is E is constant, P is constant. But this overall you can say the shear force has a component called as L1, which is the distance. So if this L1 increases, or you can say, let us say L1, L2, we can say if the L increases or the length increases, then ultimately the value of the shear force will increase. Okay. So what we are getting, if the length will increase, this P will increase. So the farthest L or the longest L value will give the highest value of your shear force, and same what I have written here, the bolt which is located farthest will experience more or maximum force. Okay. So if in the question or in the analysis we need to calculate the value of shear stress, so the maximum shear stress will be equals to P1 dash upon A, and the tensile stress or you can say sigma is equals to P1 double dash divided by A. Okay, this will give you the value of tensile as well as the value of the shear stresses. Okay, now also this sigma 1 is the principal stress is given by. Okay, already we have read primary shear force, secondary shear force. We have calculated the value of shear stress. We have seen about the tensile stress. Now on the concept where there is biaxial loading condition, you can say the load is being applied in the two different axes. So we have read in the stress theory that they are the places where the shear stress is zero. You will be getting two stresses. One is called the principal stresses, principal maximum stress, minimum principal stress. Okay, so it is denoted by, you can say, sigma 1, sigma 2. Already we have seen. Okay, so from here if we need to calculate the value of principal stresses. Okay, if there is two kind of loading, normal stress and shear stress acting in the, you can say, the assembly. So from here you will be getting this sigma 1 will be equals to, already we have get that tensile stress. The formula for your principal stress is given by the mean of the normal stresses in both the directions. Suppose let us say x-axis and y-axis, sigma 1 plus sigma y by 2 plus under root of sigma 1 plus sigma y by 2 whole square plus tau square xy. So here we have the loading in x direction, you can say one direction, but a shear stress component is also there. So these two, normal stress and shear stress, will contributes to a generation of your principal stresses. So the sigma 1 or you can say the maximum principal stress is given by sigma t by 2 plus sigma t by 2 whole square plus tau square. Okay, also the value of maximum shear stress you can calculate here. Tau max is equals to sigma t by 2 whole square plus tau square. Okay, so this equation F you can see here, this is nothing but the value of the principal stress sigma 1 and the maximum shear stress. Okay, also from the shear stress theory or you can say the theories of failure, the sigma 1 is equals to SYT upon Fs. What is this SYT upon Fs? This is the yield strength divided by the factor of safety. Already we have seen in previous cases also when we have calculated the tensile stress in volt. So in that case we have seen sigma 1 or you can say sigma t is SYT by Fs. Tau max is equals to zero point 0.5 times of SYT. Already we have calculated in previous cases. So as the bolts are subjected to shear, hence appropriate to use maximum shear stress theory of failure. Okay, now where this statement comes, already I have told before some time that what we have taken the sigma t and tau max value or tau as 0.5 times of SYT according to maximum shear stress theory. This shear stress theory is mostly or you can say applied for your ductile material, okay, not for your brittle material. So shear stress theory says the material will deform when it has reached the value zero point 0.5 times the shear. Okay, you can say zero point 0.5 times of the tensile strength of the material. Then the material, ductile material, generally fails in case of shear. So what will be the limit? Limit will be equals to the half of the tensile strength. So this is statement given in the maximum shear stress theory. So for bolted material, when it is considered as a ductile, or you can say the impact loading or shock loading is there, so it is better to use maximum shear stress theory of failure in the bolted joints. Okay, now we have studied about the forces. Now we need to calculate the torque requirement for bolt tightening. Okay, this is, you can say, the nut. There is a bolt. Nut is stationary, we are rotating the bolt, so there is a turning action, you can say the turning moment being applied, or the torque is being applied in the bolt. So what is the value of the torque being applied? So the magnitude of torque, although I have not derived the whole concept, you can simply say that the turning moment mt, or you can say the torque, is equals to PIDM divided by 2, or you can say the initial force dm by 2 is the mean diameter. Okay, mu sec theta plus tan alpha upon y minus mu sec theta tan alpha. Now what is Pi? This is the pretension in the bolt. What is this pretension? You, this is just a practical case you can understand. Suppose this is your nut, this is a bolt. What we are doing is, initially we need to take the bolt and align it with the thread position. Okay, before aligning you cannot place it directly, otherwise the threads will break. Okay, so what we are doing, this is the pre-stress. We just try to align the threads of the nut and the bolt. This is called as the pretension. So when the pretension is being applied, multiplied by the radius. Okay, and this radius is rotating in the, you can say, the direction of the thread, or you can say the axis of the nut. So the value of the torque is given by PIDM by 2 mu sec theta plus tan alpha 1 minus mu sec theta tan alpha. Okay, what is this alpha? Alpha is the helix angle. Okay, alpha already we have seen the, you can say the helix angle, you can say, and the theta, what do you get? Theta is nothing but the thread angle. Okay, so this gives the value of the magnitude of torque in case of your threaded joint. Okay, so for today's class, friend, we have seen, starting, if we just revise in just a minute, that we have started with what are your threaded joints, what are the component, what is called the thread. Okay, what is the basic nomenclature, terminology of the screw thread we have seen. Okay, we have seen the various nomenclature related to it. We have seen how to define or how to get select the, you can say, the screw thread assembly, or you see screw thread series, how we need to define coarse thread, fine series, coarse series. Second is our bolted joint analysis, how what we have done here. Now comes the various analysis, or you can say the various assemblies and the application of load. First on the basis of the eccentric loading, second based on your perpendicular to the axis of the bolt. Okay, after this what we have seen, we have gone through the various, you can say, the calculation of the shear stress and the normal stress. Okay, and from this shear and normal stress we have calculated the value of maximum principal stress. Already you can see the formula here. Okay, and last but not the least, what will be the torque required for the bolt tightening. Okay, so this overall completes your threaded joint concept. Okay, apart from that, you need to not go to any deep concept for your preparation. Only with all this concept, the overall threaded joint theoretical portion is completed. In your next, I can say the next video, I will be providing the various numericals related to your threaded joint. Okay, सो प्लीज़ फ्रेंड, चैनल को लाइक, चैनल सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा, और वीडियो जिनको भी जो भी फीडबैक होता है वो प्लीज़ कमेंट बॉक्स पे आके कमेंट जरूर कीजिए कि कंटेंट आपको कैसा लग रहा है, और चैनल से रिलेटेड जो भी आप लोगों को फीडबैक देना है कमेंट बॉक्स पे आके आप लोग जरूर लिख के जाइएगा. ओके, थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स.